Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
Broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to, well, what could be one of my best episodes ever. So believe it or not, Doug Brown now has Brian Madden on the podcast show. Yes, this is true. Doug and Brian have come together for, I won't say one time only because we're going to do it again. We had so much fun for a podcast conversation. We brought on Jeff Kalberg, who's one of my favorite people that I've met recently and really got to know recently, who works with me at IGEL, and another just extremely brilliant guy. So I wanted to bring on one more brilliant guy to round things off. Two brilliant guys and me. So I needed someone else brilliant besides just Brian. So what do I say? This is, Lord knows where we're going to go, but I created a list of basic topics, VDI, RDSH, DaaS, IoT, AI. Let's see what we get to. Let's see if we get to any of Millennials. Let's see what we do, where we go. But let's have some fun and talk tech, talk EUC, talk the future with Brian, Doug, and Jeff. So with no further ado, here we go. Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We started talking, and Brian finally said, come on, guys, let's do this on the show, which is always a good sign because we're having a good conversation. So let's turn this into a public conversation. So with no further ado, let's get to it. As always, we do introductions real quick. So I'm excited to have Brian and Jeff on the line. We'll take Brian first. Brian, if in case somebody doesn't know about you, or maybe just bring us up to speed with what's new with you, who are you and what are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, so hey, everyone, I'm Brian Madden, and probably a lot of people know me from brianmadden.com. However, I no longer work at brianmadden.com. So that's actually the biggest thing to know is that Brian Madden, the website, and Brian Madden, the person, are two sort of separate, unrelated entities. So I can get into the full story, a little bit later. But, now I'm at VMware working for Sean Bass in the EUC CTO office.
That's cool. Is that weird to have BrianMadden.com and not have you be part of it? I mean, is it like there's a part of you that's missing, or is that strange?
Nah, not really. It because it happened in baby steps, Yeah. So I sold BrianMadden.com to TechTarget in 2008, and I worked there through 2016. I was there 8 years, and it's funny because a lot of people didn't even know that we sold the website and would say something like, oh man, I hope they don't change you, or I hope they don't, I hope they let you stay independent. And I'd be like, yeah, that happened like 5 years ago. So if you haven't noticed yet, I think they're doing a good job. But that was like 8 years of me working there where it was kind of separated from me personally, And then when I left in 2016, then I took a year and a half off where I didn't do anything. So again, was kind of more separation. So really it's okay for me. It's just confusing for other people because Jack, my brother Jack, is the executive editor of BrianMadden.com now, and so he'll write stories, and people still are talking to me like, "Oh man, I read your write-up of Synergy. That was good." I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't write that. That was Jack that wrote that." We put pictures on there, we put names, and people are still like, "Oh, good article, Brian."
Do you have any other brothers? Is there a junior brother that's coming up through the ranks that we don't know about yet?
There's a brother. There's me, I'm the oldest, then there's a sister who's here in New York also. I live in New York now. There's another brother who's down in Florida, and then there's Jack, who's the youngest.
Where does he live in Florida?
He is in Jacksonville. He's a lieutenant in the Navy. He's an aerospace physiologist.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. His job's legitimately cool. Like, our job's cool because we have, computers, but his job's dunk tank simulators and centrifuges and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. That's cool to a different level, to the nth degree.
Yeah.
So
Sounds
let's
like
bring
the
on
smart guy.
Yeah, well, let's bring on smart guy now. So let's bring on
He's
Mr.
the smart guy in the
Uber
family. I
smart
can
guy.
tell he's in engineering, aerospace engineering stuff. I mean, that's crazy stuff.
Wait. I said aerospace engineering. He's an aerospace physiologist. Sorry, I think I misspoke.
What's the difference?
Well, a physiologist is basically everything. An aerospace physiologist is everything that has to do with the human and aircraft interaction that isn't done by the flight surgeon. So that's like all the training as far as like oxygen masks and decompression sickness and ejection and survival and like blacking out and helmets and heads-up displays and all that kind of stuff. So basically all the human aircraft interaction.
So he needs to be even smarter.
So he's like, it studies on like, situational awareness and how you train people for that and how to escape out of a helicopter that's upside down, sinking in the water and, all those kinds of things.
Very cool. Well, we could do a whole podcast. So you have to introduce me. Well, I'll bring him on the show.
Oh, dude, he's awesome. He's they literally have like a dunk tank where they like drop a helicopter in a pool upside down and it sinks and there's like, and the people have to escape it. And that's like where they train like the aviators, they have to get like re-upped every 4 years or something like that.
That's cool. So we have Jeff, and he's chatted a bit, or talked a bit, but we haven't introduced him yet. So Mr. Jeff, can you tell us who you are and who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? What do I do? Well, I'm Jeff Kalberg. Nice to meet everybody here. I've been working with IGEL technology for, good heavens, 16 plus years at this point. So I've been around here probably working with it longer than anyone in North America since I first met them before they even started operations here back in the early days. So I've been working in the industry for a long, long time, going back to original thin clients that were hooked up to IBM mainframes. So I've been here for quite some time and evolved through all of everything that we've seen in the industries. So a lot of fun. Been a fantastic career and look forward to another 20 years of doing this.
That's Jeff is an amazing guy. I tell you, I talk about it quite often. One of the Brian went to VMware. I joined IGEL. We all quit our websites and got legitimate jobs. Is that what you say? I don't. Is that how you phrase it, Brian? Legitimate jobs, or
we got haircuts and expense accounts.
Exactly. In fact, I just made a haircut appointment just 20 minutes ago, and I'll go do that on Wednesday. So yeah, exactly. No more blue hair.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
you guys did.
But one of the things I love about IGEL the most is the people. I mean, the technology is phenomenal, but the people are exceptional, and I was quite amazed because you just don't know what you're going to walk yourself into, and it just really great people. And Jeff's one of the best. So I'm really happy to have both Brian and Jeff on the line. And like I said, we're just going to sort of chat about tech and see where the heck this thing goes. I wrote down a bunch of things, but let's see if we get to any of them, or where this conversation leads us. So let's have some fun. So Brian, I have to ask you. So like we just sort of joked, we quit our websites and took legitimate jobs. So why? What brought you to VMware? How do you like it? What's different? What's the story there? I bet you've given this answer 1,000 times, right?
Yeah, it's what's today? Yeah, beginning of June right now. So I've just passed sort of like two months at VMware. After I left BrianMadden.com, that was the summer of 2016. So almost 2 years ago now. I took some time off. Like actually, I took it off. I sold my place in San Francisco. I bought a camper van and kind of drove around the country and went to like the Grand Canyon and. I got a flip phone, so I was kind of disconnected from technology and just kind of decompressed for like a year, give or take. And that was really cool because, like a lot of us, I didn't go to college. I started working with computers like on the side in high school. And then once I graduated high school, I just kind of rolled right into it. So by that point, I was in the industry, 20, 21, 22 years without more than a week or two of vacation over those entire years. So it was great. And then I ended up in New York, and it was right around the beginning of the year. It was right after January, kind of like waking up for New Year's, and something just clicked. I'm like, okay, I'm bored. I need a job, and I knew I wanted to be back like in IT, like technology. Like, I really do like the IT kind of stuff. And to me, end user computing is the most interesting because that touches like it's not just the gadgets. That's like everything. Obviously, like the kind of human, computer interaction. Like you can go to Amazon reInvent conferences and see like all these amazing cloud services, but there's like these abstract things up in the sky, whereas all the EUC stuff is like actually what we do every day. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to be in EUC, and my first thought is like, I want to work for a cool company. And so I was looking at like Amazon and Google and Microsoft and just, I don't know, just talking to different folks about what they're doing and, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was actually talking to Amazon, and it was like kind of going down a path for a position there. And then where I saw you, Doug, at the IGEL, and Jeff, both of you, at the IGEL, the Disrupt, like North America conference in Austin. That was like February. Well, Sean Bass was there also. And so, I mean, we've known Sean. He's been in the industry like kind of forever, and we've known him, like Citrix CTP and platform speaker and Synergy and VMworld and stuff like that. So, and now he's this EUC CTO at VMware.
Yeah, Sean is just one of the smartest people, one of the nicest, smartest guys I've ever met in my life. I truly just admire that guy to no end. I mean, to talk about great human being, Sean is a great human being.
And he works as fast as he talks. So like, I think he's doing like 80 hours worth of work in 40 hours. I mean, and I've sat in meetings with him now as his colleague, and like no matter what the customer says, the customer will say like, "Oh, we're doing blah blah," and it's like some word I literally never heard of, and he's like, "Oh, is it Alpha or Centauri?" Or like he's like knows all the details about everything. Everything.
I remember the old CTP meetings. You'll remember these, Brian, and he would raise his hand, and I'd immediately pep up and be like, "Oh, cool! I can't wait to hear what Sean says next." So, utmost respect for him. But please continue.
So,
I digress.
So I saw Sean at the IGEL conference, and I'm like, hey, let's grab dinner. Like, we'll go to a separate dinner, kind of away from the conference dinner, because he was independent for like 20 years, and then he went to VMware maybe 4 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
And I just wanted to ask him. Like I wasn't even asking him about a job at VMware. I was really asking him like, going from independent to big company, like, what do you think? Would you do it again? What's it like to work for a vendor? All this kind of stuff. And he asked what I wanted to do. And I was saying that, I wanted a job where kind of like my old job, where it's kind of like an evangelist technology person. I want to do podcasts and I want to do like write blogs and basically, go on stage and give presentations and like go to like user group meetings and conferences, and just kind of the same job I was doing before, but maybe something that's more closely aligned with the vendor, so I can actually kind of help shape the specific direction of the company instead of just sort of commenting from the sidelines.
Sure, more focus.
Yeah. And so we're talking about that, and I'm talking about the different sort of opportunities in front of me, and he sort of says something. Actually, it was the next day. He texted me and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, have you considered VMware for this, what you want to do? I'm like, no. He's like, would you? I'm like, nah, I'm good, dude. And because to me, VMware was just like, I did that book in 2012 called The VDI Delusion.
Sure.
That book could have been like the VMware delusion, really. I mean, because to me, my memory of VMware in the EUC space is just shoving VDI down everyone's throats. And like I knew they had gotten into RDSH and were doing RDSH, sessions and VDI. And I knew they bought AirWatch, but they had announced the Workspace ONE suite, which I didn't know much about it. I mean, Citrix had a Workspace suite for years before that, and mostly suites are just, I don't know. I just really wasn't paying attention to what they were doing and just didn't seem interested. But I kind of was like, well, clearly I'll listen. I mean, yeah, tell me like what you like about VMware. Like, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to consider this. And so he sort of explained, kind of what they were doing and what Workspace ONE was doing now and how the products worked and everything. And, and basically over that, I was like, holy shit, they've actually done it. Like, this is pretty awesome.
I agree with you. They hired good people and they listened to them. And the first few years, it was I won't say joke, but it was, it was a fledgling little, okay, what do we do? It was a virtualization hardware company, or operating system company trying to, saying, hey, let's do some end user computing. Their DNA was not end user computing.
Right.
And they had Scott Davis, who's a great guy, but he's a storage guy, right? And so they had the guys that weren't, their DNA was not in it, right? And then they hired Sumit, they hired Sean,
it's when Sanjay came in. It's really when they brought in Sanjay to head up EUC. That's where the tides turned.
Yep, got it.
And then that brought in Sumit, that brought in Sean, and Noah Wasmer, who's there now. Like he came back. He was there for a while, and then went to like Apple and Mobile Iron, and then came back. And they nail it. And so
nailed it. Yeah.
And someone accused me of well, you're only joining VMware now because they're doing like everything right. And I'm like, yeah, to be clear, that's exactly true. That's 100% correct.
What's wrong with that?
I'll
get shit if I can, Brian, but what's wrong with that?
That's why you joined IGEL.
Well, I joined IGEL for a different reason. It was believe it or not, it was a lot like Brian's story. I was doing a podcast like I'm now, and I had a bunch of static on the line, and so Jed's like, "Hey, call me. I'll tell you the off the record story." Right? So Jed and I both or Jed's responsible for both Brian and I taking legitimate jobs, basically, right?
Hey, you know what? And because the reason I actually spoke, I said this at the show. The reason I was at Disrupt, the IGEL Disrupt event anyway, was kind of an accident because that was during the time that I wasn't working, and so Jed, I used to live in San Francisco, and Jed lives in the Bay Area, and so I would meet him for breakfast. I don't know, every 6 months or so when I was living there, and he was just like, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Like, we should get breakfast." And as it happened, I was going to be visiting San Francisco the very next week. And again, this is during like my off time, like with the flip phone. Like I was not, in the world at all.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, let's get breakfast. And so we meet for breakfast, and then Simon Cleffam is there also. And I'm like, oh man, this is like a business meeting. But anyway, they're like, oh, we're doing this, like, we think you should speak at Disrupt. And I'm like, Disrupt? Holy shit, yes, I'll speak at Disrupt. And they're like, no, IGEL Disrupt. I'm like, oh, I guess that's fine too. And because but I'm like, I can't, like, I'm not in the industry anymore. Like, what am I going to talk about? And they're like, well, what are you doing? And I was doing stuff with Gabe Knuth, like working on his other projects with pinball machines, like putting little controllers in pinball machines. It's kind of IoT like. And he's like, oh, you can talk about IoT. And like, I think IoT is kind of dumb. And people like, when they talk about IoT, it makes me roll my eyes because they're not like, I think when they talk about IoT, what they're thinking about is not the right way to think about IoT. And I went in this whole little soapbox over breakfast about like, my little rant on IoT. And Jed and Simon look at each other and they're like, I think that would make a good session. And I'm like, all right, I'll come to your show and speak at the,
Did you had a good time at the show? Sean told me, he's like, I can't believe this. This is amazing.
Oh, yeah. That show, I mean, I told a lot of people this. Like, I felt like with all due respect, that show was way better than I thought it would be from, like, IGEL.
I don't disagree with you.
Like, you think of IGEL and you think of, like, I don't know, third ranked thin client vendor, like a thin client's a thin client. They're all the same, right? Like, I'm doing air quotes here.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You just like IGEL, it's like, what? And then you go to the show, and yeah, like Sean was there, and you were there, and like Greenberg and Webster, and and it was legit. And the customers there, like I know it's like probably like half customers and half partners, but like people there like really, really like IGEL. And it really kind of opened my eyes because I was asking like, why? With all due respect, aren't these things the same? Don't you just buy Dell or HP? Like, what's IGEL? And then they were obviously explaining like the focus, and you're not like having the same sales rep who's also quoted on PCs, and and like the customizability, and like how even like the older Wise clients are like there's clients that Wise has dropped support for that IGEL still supports, and a lot of cool stuff like that. So, but that show was really, really good, and I thought I was expecting to go to like a little Mickey Mouse, welcome to the Airport Ramada, kind of like seminar. Well, but it was like a legit conference.
I work for the company, and the thing about Jed Ayers is he he comes up with these ideas, and I think that's not going to work, and he pulls them off beyond belief. And I've got to the point where, and I'm well past the point where I don't doubt the man anymore. But the thing is, because he put together this conference that was, okay, IGEL, yeah, thin clients, yeah, but what IGEL has is not thin clients. It's beyond that, right? And that's why you got you saw the reaction that you received, the reaction that you received, and that's why we're able to be successful and we're growing. And he's telling the story finally that resonates, and it doesn't surprise me, but I have the same, feeling as you, right? But I've always loved the idea of thin clients because I come from the mainframe world, right? It always made sense to me. It just never panned out until really what IGEL had built was shown and explained in the proper fashion, right? And then you go and talk to those people, and you just, and Jeff knows this, he's seen it for 15 years, and people are just blown away.
I'd known for years. It was one of these interesting things that every time I showed somebody the IGEL product, and nobody knew who we were. Nobody knew. But, everybody who ever saw it, I used to say, everybody that sees it wants it. They have to get over the politics of who the heck is IGEL.
Yeah. And the other problem is the word thin client is when Jeff and I have had this conversation, but Brian, if I tell you thin client, what do you think of? What does your 20-year veteran brain think of when I say thin client?
I think of WISE, and I think of a little plastic box that's kind of cheap and lasts a long time. And is used just as essentially like a dumb terminal for Citrix or Horizon or something like that.
Yeah, I think of slow and chunky. I think of Java, slow and chunky. And,
don't get confused with the NC.
Yeah, so it's not that way. It's not at all. And that's the thing that's why I like to call IGEL secure access points or secure endpoints or software defined endpoints.
The software, by the way, that's the thing. People just love the software so much, like the management software. For IGEL, so that seemed to be like the common thread of talking to people also.
And that's true. I mean, for years, that's what it's always been. I've never talked about the product as a thin client. I mean, we were in that space. We're still in that space.
Yeah, of course.
But it really is a platform for doing all sorts of things, which is why we talk about some of the end users. I mean, they're not using IGEL as a thin client in any way, shape, or form. Yep. It's a managed device for retail and for digital signage and all sorts of different uses.
It's a platform. I call it a platform with two components: a management console and an operating system. And the operating system and the management console was written with the operating system, and it can do anything that you really want it to do. And you can build it. You can have it just the way you want it because it's Linux. So you can remove things, you can add things, you can customize things, you can change things yellow or blue if you so choose, right? But let's keep going. So we'll go down that. We'll bring up that subject many times, but let's keep moving along. So I have one more question for you, Brian, and then we'll get into talking tech, the three of us. What was it like? What has it been like to work for somebody? And I can give you my answer on this one too. But, going from being, completely being able to say whatever the heck you want to say. And sometimes when you say the craziest things, you get more clicks and, people, what's it like to now have to somewhat check what you say in some way? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so far it's been okay. So the biggest change for me has been the fact that, and I think you understand what I mean when I say this, in my old job, I couldn't be wrong. Like I was never wrong. And when I say that, it's because my product was opinions. So I had lots of opinions about how I thought like the future would go that turned out to be incorrect. So so I made like predictions were wrong, but that was different than being wrong. So if I made a prediction that was wrong, like I didn't have to like retract that article to say, oh, this didn't happen in 2 years like I thought. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're giving opinions, it's just your opinion. So it's like always valid. And now if I'm talking about stuff, I can't say like, oh yeah, this is a feature that's in, Horizon 7.5 when it's actually not, or vice versa. And I mean, luckily my job is not so much like the speeds and feeds of all the different products. It's more kind of like big picture and vision and direction and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But when I first got there, I was like just I I was kind of overwhelmed by, because you think of VMware and EUC, there's only one product, Workspace ONE, but then Workspace ONE really kind of has, the AirWatch and Horizon. But then Horizon has like cloud and on-prem, and then there's also Apple IAMs and UEM and all the client and all the different platforms for that. And then, AirWatch has Identity Manager and, intelligence and trust network and all these different things. So there's like 30 different products really. And so it was very overwhelming to sort of just learn what everything did from the block diagram level, let alone like get into the details. But the biggest thing, and so a lot of people have said like, oh, is it gonna be weird where you're not able to say what you want to say and that kind of stuff. But in a lot of ways, they hired me because I'm me, so they want me to do blogs and write what I write, and like my blogs are going on LinkedIn, not like the corporate VMware blogs.com or whatever. And like podcasts and that sort of thing. And so like they hired me to be me. So that's cool. But the other biggest change is at VMware, I don't know how many employees are in the EUC like business unit. I honestly have no idea. Like thousands. It's a lot. And it's like we're all on the same team. So at TechTarget with BrianMadden.com, it was basically just like me, Gabe, and Jack. And we had like Justin doing videos, Mariah, our business manager, so like the five of us. And like, yes, everyone at TechTarget was all on the same team, but TechTarget had like 200 websites. So the only people, sort of technologists caring about, EUC was me, Gabe, and Jack. So we kind of had to do everything, research everything, whatever. So, when you get to a big company internally now, like on our intranet, we have all like the research, and it's all, like Microsoft, I don't know, Build was a month ago, and people attend Build and then send back a report like, here's a 2-page bullet list of like what was important at Build as it kind of relates to VMware, where before like I would have to actually go through and like read like 20 different articles and Twitter and try to like suss out, like what was actually important or not. So it'd take me 3 hours to figure it out, where now I can read a paper in 2 minutes. So the fact that sort of like everyone, there's like all these people that are all sort of on the same side trying to support each other. There's a lot of stuff that I would have had to do myself, previously, that there's like entire teams whose job it is now to do that. And I can just sort of, get the benefit of their work, which that's like a really awesome feeling.
I know what you mean. It's in one of the things I told Jed when I joined IGEL is I want to be part of a team again. I got sick of living on the island called Doug. And I wanted to go be a part of a team. I wanted to work. I wanted to have a boss. I wanted to be told I was doing something wrong or right, or I wanted to work with guys like Jeff. I just wanted to have fun again. And I think that, not that I wasn't having fun at DABCC. I mean, obviously that's a lot of fun, but it's a different type of fun. And I think you totally know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
And I like the part that you said about hired to be you. When I first joined IGEL, it was a complete fluke, and I end up at this company. I'm thinking to myself, what the heck did I do? And I'm walking with our CEO and Jed, and they're both in full suits. And I look at Jed and I said, do I need to get a suit? He goes, no. I was like, well, what do I need to wear? And he says, wear what Doug Brown wears. I was like, I can do that. I can do that. So, and I was like, what do I need to do? Do what Doug Brown does. And I always describe
what would Doug Brown do? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two people. There's Doug, that's me, and then there's Doug Brown, which is the fictitious character. And
we used to talk about that, Brian versus BrianMadden.com.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing because Sean Bass always wears suits, and even when he's not wearing a suit, he's wearing like a blazer or like a suit jacket over a shirt, like with no tie, but like always with a suit. And so I kind of was like, do I need to wear a suit in this job when I go meet with customers? And they're like, no, that's just a Sean thing.
Would you own a suit?
Nah.
I don't either.
No.
I've gone through my entire professionol career without buying a suit.
I have a linen one that I wore to my brother's wedding. No, my brother's wedding, but it's like shorts.
Yeah, well,
it's not long pants. It's like shorts, like suit shorts.
I have a nice Hugo Boss coat, but I bought it for when I did get married, 11 years ago or something, and I've gained much weight since then. So that doesn't fit me.
It's still in the closet though. It's aspirational.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm losing weight because now that I live in Europe, I want one of those really bad, the bone James Bond suits.
Yeah.
So, but those guys are quite form-fitted.
They're slender. Yes.
I got a lot of work to do. Okay, guys. So enough about all that. I wanted to ask that because that's the questions. I guess that's probably the Brian Madden 101 nowadays, right? You're probably sick of answering those questions.
Yeah.
Let's start talking about some tech. So, so where do we start? So, okay, what about VDI? Where's Brian? You recently wrote an article about RDSH versus VDI, and VDI is clearly winning. Blah 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 blah. Let's talk about RDSH versus VDI.
Yeah. Well, that article, and that's one of these articles on LinkedIn. That was based on me attending Synergy. Even though I work at VMware, VMware's the sponsor, or gold sponsor of Synergy. So I was there along with a bunch of coworkers, and I talked to a lot of customers. And remember, I had taken that kind of year and a half off, so I didn't really I had caught up based on all the articles, by reading brianmadden.com and your site and the old podcasts and stuff. But I hadn't talked to a customer in a while, so I probably talked to 10 customers at Synergy, and all of them who were doing remote desktops were using VDI. So I'm not saying there's no use for RDSH, because obviously single app, publishing and all that kind of stuff is still really good. But the people who were doing full desktop publishing were going VDI instead of RDSH full desktops.
And why?
And
why?
A few reasons. Number one, the cost of a VDI desktop is much more similar to the cost of an RDSH desktop now. And part of that is just based on Moore's law, where storage is better, memory is better, the algorithms are better, everything's better. And now you can deliver a VDI desktop within maybe 10 or 20% of the cost of delivering an RDSH session-based desktop. Now some people who have hundreds of thousands of users and really looking at the cost will still go to RDSH, but the cost is similar enough that the other advantages of VDI, like the fact that it uses a client operating system, so you don't have to have we have to install the application weird this way, on the servers, and it's a Windows 10 here and it's Server 2016 over here. The patch cycles are the same. That's another huge thing. When Patch Tuesday, the patch number is the hotfix number. That's all in sync between then your VDI and your on your traditional physical. So basically, it means that you can just say here's our standard build for desktops. It's Windows 10. It's these apps installed these way, and it's done exactly the same way, whether it's in the data center via VDI or whether it's on someone's desk. So just the simplicity that you get by using the same platform for all your users there's more value in that than the 10 to 20% sort of cost hit you get from hosting VDI a little bit more expensively than RDSH. The other thing too is I didn't know this. RDSH has a lot of security issues for users being able to hijack sessions and view other user sessions, and so. There's and a bunch of this happen based on users having admin rights. But there are cases where users need admin rights on their machines, and if you have an admin right, you can do whatever you want on the server. But there's a lot of things also where, and I linked to this in the article. There's these different little exploits where you can actually, as a regular user, you can use something like password cracking things to find the passwords on service accounts. Then you can use those service accounts to shadow other users. And they actually recommend running these scripts to change the passwords on service accounts every 5 minutes, so that anyone who so they can't crack the password fast enough, basically. And if you sort of go into some of the links in there and sort of digging, you find all these examples and videos on YouTube of people actually being able to jump from one session to another on a RDSH machine. So I think a lot of people are just you know what? Again, the cost of VDI versus RDSH is pretty similar. So they're just I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to make it, VDI and give each user
Do you think the security thing is a big deal? I mean, I would see that as more as I don't know a lot of users that are doing that, or is it just because we're so security conscious that's now become important?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I didn't even know these things existed until I was at Synergy. I didn't know that was for a regular user to be in an RDSH session and be able to exploit and shadow or another user without the other user knowing it. I didn't even know that was a thing. But a couple of the customers I met with cited that as the reason they were using VDI instead of RDSH. Now you can also, it's like the whack-a-mole, right? So you can absolutely, yes, these are specific loopholes. you can close these specific loopholes, especially if you don't have a published desktop and you've got kind of things locked down. So you're just doing published apps. It's easier to sort of protect against this.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that RDSH is broken or anything like that, or insecure. It's just that for these full desktops, that was just another reason why people were just like, I'm just going to do VDI now.
And Jeff, what do you think? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I think going back to this whole security thing, it was people who know me I always like to bring up history because we're doomed to repeat ourselves over and over again. But you were talking earlier on about VMware and how they got here and how they changed over the years. I remember when VMware started showing up on the radar with end user computing, which had to be around 2004, 2005, I think, is about when it was.
Yeah, when they started, like when they bought Propero and started doing VDM and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to laugh. I can remember people I know who were very, very early adopters of working with VMware, because I think I started working with VMware and there were like 12 people with the company back in the days as a reseller. But when they started to do the end user computing, Citrix had gotten fat and happy and were resting on their laurels. They weren't doing anything. And VMware all of a sudden started to steal some market share. And it's like, wait a second. So we saw Citrix improve, and we've seen VMware respond. I think the general community, this whole concept of virtualizing desktops and just virtualization for end-user computing in general, has been benefited from these two companies kind of
absolutely
going at each other. I think if they hadn't, who knows? I don't know that we'd actually be where we are today, which is a big push towards VDI.
Oh, yeah.
Competition is the greatest thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think security is the same way. It is like whack-a-mole. We didn't really think. I don't think people thought about the possibility. It was always been there, but it was just maybe it just didn't have focus. And now people are realizing that this is an area that needs to be addressed. There's no reason for us to have short passwords anymore for any reason. I think. Doug, weren't you and I talking about, Mary Had a Little Lamb is a much stronger password than, 8 or 10 characters,
Yeah, E, capital 1, exclamation mark, lowercase q,
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
We never think about that. Or even the ability, as you said, every 5 seconds or every 60 seconds to have the passwords just automatically change. Sure, we can do that. These are things that, we didn't think about, but they have focus now. And I think last year, 2017 ended up being a banner year for exploits and vulnerabilities, but it's not going to stop. It's going to continue on as more and more devices are used.
Well, if there's a door out, there's a door in. You guys remember, and I need to boot up a 351 server just so I can get the image because I haven't found it on the web. But do you remember the old C2 checker and NT351, the security checker? Do you remember that app by chance? You would run it, and it would check to, if you closed this, you did this.
Oh, yeah.
It would always come up. The last thing was red, and it said unplug the network cable. That's the only way you could get it to be quote unquote secure is if you unplug the network cable. And that was such a perfect screenshot for security because if there's a door out, there's a door in. And that's where you get the whack-a-mole, right? Is that, if there's, and nowadays we have so many doors out because of all the APIs, right? Because of all the different interactions between applications and services and web and, what have you, right? All the different places. And
all this, like I said, goes back to, in the context of RDSH versus VDI, like I said, I don't even necessarily think that the RDS security is a big deal, like that much worse than VDI. It's because, like you said, door out, door in. It's more of the cost structure has become a lot more sort of in parity between VDI and RDSH. So not because of that, people are just like, okay, well, if I can do it for about the same cost and not have to even think about anything differently than what I do on my desktops today, then fine, I'm just going to do that.
And I won't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that because I think at the end of the day, to give a person a one-to-one experience, and to me, what I loved, and I'll use the word Citrix because I'm old, and to me, when I say a Citrix server, I mean a remoting server, right?
Uh-huh.
So to me, Citrix, and I use that because of the age, again, is all about a better way to compute. Right? It's you compute anywhere, any place, anytime. Admins get get a deal with the administration, the security, the management, blah, 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 right? And then, back to something like an IGEL, you stick an endpoint, a secure endpoint at the at the client. Now you don't have to worry about that, right? Because you can manage that centrally too. It's just a better way to compute. So if you can give them an even better way to compute on top of the better way to compute, meaning they get their own, let's say, Windows 10 desktop, well, isn't that what they want? Isn't that, versus saying, oh, well, yeah, it looks a little bit different, or yeah, you can't do this, or what have you, right?
Yeah, and think about this. When VDI first came out, absolutely invented by VMware. Obviously, all of us, you and me were, the Citrix people were like, this is ridiculous. Metaframe already does that and way cheaper. But you remember the early VDI, they tried to push the non-persistent because they were doing like linked clones and technology was like just clunky and like the only way you could make it work from a sort of performance and cost standpoint was to do these kind of shared non-persistent images. And we tried all these tricks to try to make a non-persistent image look like a persistent image and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, VDI and RDSH, Metaframe, these kinds of things were only really for like 10, 15, 20% of our users. Yeah. So we had like the other 80% of our users had persistent laptops and desktops that were running physically. And it's like, well, the organization, we knew how to manage those users, whatever it was, whether it was like Altiris or SCCM or SMS or whatever it was, we were doing fine. And so it's like we didn't need a new management paradigm like really for our desktops. Like we weren't demanding that. It's just that since VDI couldn't do persistent, we kind of like reverse, like it's like tail wagging the dog, tried to convince ourselves that we needed a better way to manage things. But like I said, at no point was the 80% physical ever under review. So now once the technology caught up, and that's what happened in the past, 3-4 years, whether it's like with hyperconverged, vSAN, whatever that is, the fact that technology now is able to do like single instance block level, object storage and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, you can have a bunch of, like fully persistent, air quotes, desktop images that actually, can have like fast caching in memory with disk blocks and all this kind of stuff. So we can now actually deliver, and this is not a VMware thing. Like this, is like all like Microsoft, Citrix, everybody. Sure. The technology is better now. It's Nutanix. We can deliver fully persistent desktops without the penalty that it was 5 years ago. And now we're like, oh, this is great because we've been doing fully persistent desktops since the 1990s on the desks. So now VDI is just like that. And actually, the barrier to getting into VDI, it's funny, like it's ironic that fully persistent desktops is actually much, much easier and a much lower barrier of entry simply because that's the way you're doing things already. So it's not that big of a change to go from – it truly is a physical to virtual change. It's not like you're trying to change the complete paradigm of how you manage desktops at the same time as you're going to VDI.
You got it. Before they all had Windows too at the client too. So and you remember the days. I love that you used the word Metaframe. You remember the days before 1.8, right? And and before 1.8, we didn't have seamless Windows, so we gave them a desktop. They had two desktops and they didn't know what to do. Then Citrix came out with seamless Windows. And that allowed us to now deploy an application on top of their Windows desktop. It lived side by side. The user knew what to do. They didn't even know what Citrix was other than the splash screen, right? In a way they went, but with VDI, it brought back a problem of, okay, now we have two desktops. And again, you go to a secure endpoint. Now you have one desktop. It reduces the cost even lower. You get a better way to compute any place, anytime. It completes the 360 story. Right. And to me, that also drives, like I mentioned, drives down the cost to allow, for that, what you said, even if there's still a discrepancy between the two, even to narrow that gap, if not even improve it from the side of the VDI to become cheaper than managing Windows and RDSH. Right.
Yeah, I agree. And just do it. It's always easier to keep on doing things as similarly as possible.
Cool. Jeff, anything? What do you think, Jeff?
I'm just listening to all this and just, looking out the window and just being amazed as I listen to everything that's going on and what we're talking about. I mean, it's not just the technology is advanced. It has tremendously. Again, Moore's Law, everything's getting smaller and smaller. Everything's getting less expensive. The hardware is really becoming commodity, and it's all working at incredible levels. Software becomes important. But we also have generations of people now that just work differently. That's partly driving this too. So yeah, they have their desktop, but people are getting their applications on all sorts of different products. I mean, it's not just the desktop anymore. And they're partly driving this whole idea of getting everything into the data center because that's the only place they can access everything they need to access from whatever they're going to use, whether it's their phone or their tablet or their.
And it's like let's back up. It's not generations. I mean, you're 60. Where are you right now?
He's 59.
Let's not make it happen too soon. I got.
But where are you actually right now?
Right now, I'm sitting at my desk in my home office with about 9 computers around me.
You're at home.
I have a tablet. I have a phone. I have a laptop. I have all sorts of devices that I use to work with.
And Doug, where are you physically right now?
I'm in Florida, which would be my my summer home or my summer. I don't know what it would be called, but I mean that sounds so pompous. But it's my home, my second home. But. So
you're 47. You're at home. I'm at home. I'm 40. My point is this: is you said about how like the like the young people and how they want to work. Like, dude, we're ages between 40 and 60. And we're all working from home right now too.
But I think
it's not just the young people. I mean, I got the Apple keynote on my other tab here, watching from my new laptop, and I'm looking at the iPad. I'm talking to you on an iPhone, So it's the way that everyone works now. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, I think we have to support these things. It's not. We don't have to support the young kids and how they work. We have to support like human employees and the way they work, regardless of age.
But I think the young kids. And I'll throw another buzzwords out there too, because I love this, the consumerization of IT, right? The fact that these young kids came in. So the three of us are used to, we grew up in a world where we were told what to do. We were given a PC and told how to compute, and we didn't question it, and we never even thought to question it, right? It was, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Oh, we get to work from home. Cool. And it wasn't a question. Where the kids coming in today, the millennials, they demand not in a mean way.
Hang on,
please.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
No. Go.
I don't think it's a new kids thing, man. I used Groove before Microsoft bought them in like 2002.
But I think you're an outliner, Brian. You're an outliner. You're a technologist, right?
Well, but the thing is, like, as I think what happened was the millennial generation was the generation who was just happened to be entering the workforce at the same time the consumer technology actually became better than what companies were able to provide their employees. So it wasn't just millennials who were like, oh, you want me to use a VPN to connect your SMB file share? F that, I'm going to use Dropbox. Like, I believe that was everyone kind of who found ways Dropbox.
I think you have a very valid point. Very, very valid point. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. But I think
it doesn't change what we have to do as IT, by the way. We have to support them regardless. I just think, let's not blame the millennials. Like, old people.
No, it's not a blame at all. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, it's not a blame.
I'm blaming.
I think we've learned to use this stuff. I think people coming into the workforce today, are expecting it.
Exactly. That's the difference. I agree with that. They're expecting it. Please continue.
I expect it too with my job.
but you're different. And I expect it too, but I'm losing the battle. I have to encrypt my Mac drive tonight because IGEL's making me encrypt, and I hate File Vault.
Well, you know what? Twice. You should use Workspace ONE, and then they can just apply that policy. Directly. You don't have to do anything yourself.
Yeah, I will let them know that. So
I'm in.
I'm
ready. I'm rebuilding my next. I've been working on my next laptop.
Well, you're a Linux guy. You skirt by the wayside.
Linux, that's an interesting project. So, but yeah. So I'm toying with. Okay, do I have to actually do full disk encryption, or can I get away with encrypting just certain sections of my disk?
Well, that's what I want to do. Full disk encryption is a bad idea. It crashes too much. I mean, I've been screwed twice by File Vault. The first time, it was so bad that Apple actually sent me a laptop replacement because they couldn't fix the drive. I couldn't even install it. They screwed up the drive so bad. The second time, I just lost all my data. And luckily, I had a backup, but still, I had to lose a day of restoring everything, right? And now I'm going to go third time. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Maybe it's easier nowadays that the SSDs are soldered to the logic board, so you don't have to worry about someone like swiping your laptop and popping the drive out and mounting it.
Sure.
Although I guess you can still use remote drive mode. I just feel like if you've got a laptop and you're running around the world, you just cannot not have encryption.
Yeah, but you can encrypt your folders, not your OS, right?
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So
I haven't had any problem. I mean, knock on wood, I guess, but I've never had a problem with encryption, like crashing anything.
Yeah. I mean, I have all my USB drives are encrypted, and Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, go on.
No. And then my folders are encrypted, and that's it.
I think the new stuff, I mean, it's faster too. It can be faster. Like you can encrypt and compress, and the algorithms are written for express decryption and all that sort of thing. And they've got like hardware accelerated decryption and all that. So it's just like it's not a performance hit. Like remember back in the the old days with the Microsoft stuff.
It's not a performance issue
down.
to me. It's not. It's I'm scared to death of losing my data a third time. So the first thing I did, I was like, hold on, I'm going to go buy a different drive because I'm in America and my backup drive's in Berlin, and I need to do it now. So I was like, I'll order a new drive. I got a USB-C, which is just so lightning fast. I love it. And so I backed up my drive, and now if I lose anything, okay, cool, I can get it back.
But do you have stuff like everything that I own, like? I would say like my desktop is sort of cloud powered, even though it runs locally. Like the apps are from the App Store or Office 365.
Yep.
The folder, all the data is in OneDrive or Dropbox. Or like maybe I use iCloud for some syncing stuff.
Yep. Your desktop.
So there's no like if you drove a bolt through my laptop today, I mean, yeah, it'd take me a day to like re-download everything. But I wouldn't I haven't backed up my laptop in years.
Well, so you're correct. You're correct. And this is what I love, and I'm looking forward to listening to the Apple keynote. But this is what I love is that I have Apple does my iCloud, so my desktop, my documents folder, which are just miscellaneous junk and what have you, right? Then I have Dropbox. I've been a Dropbox user since it was invite only. I love Dropbox. And then I have OneDrive for my corporate stuff. Right, and then DABCC corporate stuff too. So everything that is all synced, but what you lose is all your settings, right? All the everything that configuration you have. The fact that I use Bartender, a little app to control what's on my taskbar, and that's all set up the way I like it. Do you use Bartender by chance?
No, but I've got a billion icons on my taskbar, and like 80% of them are unnecessary.
Bartender. Download Bartender.
I know.
You'll absolutely love it. Because I have 4 icons on my taskbar, and the rest are in Bartender underneath it.
Bartender. I do love a Bartender.
Oh, man, it's so nice. So this is what I'm saying is I have the thing set up the way I want. And when it crashes, you lose those. And I would love for Apple to fix that. But a lot of those are app specific, right? So when you reinstall the app, it doesn't take those settings. So, that's what I'm talking about more or less. But yeah, for the most part, we live in a world where everything's, connected to some form of cloud, right? Which actually brings up a different problem for IT is managing all that cloud, right? So at IGEL, the IGEL stuff needs to be in OneDrive, which is totally cool with me. And then I have my personal stuff in Dropbox, because we live in that hybrid world.
It was cool, I mean, obviously that's all the trend right now. In the space, like this is what VMware's messaging is around Workspace ONE. If you attended Citrix Synergy in Anaheim last month, you saw their whole keynote was around like the same kind of messaging. At the lower level, all the components will compete if they're like Horizon's going to compete against Zen Desktop, and AirWatch can compete against like Zen Mobile or Intune or whatever. Workspace ONE can compete against CCM and Jamf. Those are all products that are going to compete against each other at that level. But I think everyone realizes that there's another level above that, which is like sort of that unifying platform that we've got kind of one place for apps and users and data and content and entitlements that then is applied regardless of where the users are or wherever regardless of what kind of data they have or the applications they're using or the devices or whatever. And that seems to be like it's cool to me that the whole industry like gets that. Like I haven't had to talk to any customers, and I've met with like 30 or 40 customers now already just in 2 months. I didn't have to convince any of them like, oh, having a unified platform for everything is good. Like, no one has to be sold on that. Everyone's like, yeah, we get that. And then they want to know the specifics. But the concept everyone understands, which is pretty great.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I when I do my sessions, I talk about the big thing in the future, and the big thing that we need to tackle is identity, security, and now I forget the third one. I just had it in my brain. I lost it. Persona. And bringing those three together across, because we no longer own. In the old days, we owned our software, right? We downloaded it, we installed it, we managed it. Nowadays, our environments are made up of software that we manage and software that other people manage. But we need to bring those all together, and that's, I think, the next frontier is to have something that brings all those things together in a unified. To where, if I lose my machine, like you said, drill a hole in it. Who cares, right?
Yeah. That's how I learned how VMware does it. I've learned more about Workspace ONE as an employee who actually uses it, on a daily basis, versus anything I read in any PDFs from our tech sites, because my first day of onboarding, by 8 a.m., I was like, okay, I'm ready to go, like Brian Madden reporting for duty. And I texted Sean, and he forwarded me an email that had my username and password in it, like my temporary one-time password, and said, go to, here's our portal. Just hit the employee portal and let me know if you have any questions. And I didn't have any questions. And by, within an hour, I had like my iPad, my phone, my laptop, like all sort of hooked up and rolled, the apps installed, everything that, like all the work stuff. It's just it's so easy. It's awesome.
I like Workspace ONE. I really do. I must confess. Well, you said it earlier. When VMware came around in the EUC space, I sort of laughed at it. Flat out laughed at it. I was like, "This is a joke. Come on, keep creating amazing hypervisors and management around that." But leave the EUC for the pros, right? And today, I will admit to anybody that I think that the leader out there today is VMware in many ways. I'm not saying it's better than what Citrix is doing, but I'm saying they're leading the way, and that's as many kudos as I can give to Sanjay and some Sumit. I know he moved on, and of course Sean, and now you. So absolutely, and so many others too, right?
Oh yeah, and there's like thousands of people doing all the work, and it's. Yeah, because to me, the real thing about it, Horizon versus XenApp XenDesktop, that's like a, that's like saying Blast versus HDX. There's pros and cons to each. I think both those products are fine products. But when you're sort of looking at like the platform level, this unifying all of EUC, that's a core component of it. But that's just one component. It's like the alternator in your car. It's important that it's there and it works, but you're not picking the car based on the alternator. And so it's frankly, it doesn't even matter. Like with Workspace ONE, we confront if you want to use XenApp XenDesktop, to us, that's just another app. We can, broker connections to that just as easily as we can Horizon. Like, we don't care. But where it's really interesting for me from VMware was on the physical side of things, because I just really wondered. VMware via AirWatch was physically controlling like iOS and Android. But that's really easy because those apps, there's a nice mobile interface. Those apps are just one click, install, deinstall. It's very simple. When you get into Windows 10, like, yes, you can use the modern management APIs, but there's a whole bunch of limitations. Like, you can only do Windows Store apps, and you can't do general GPOs and all that kind of stuff. And I said to Sean, because he talked about that, and like actually people, using Workspace ONE for physical Windows 10 instead of SCCM. I'm like, no way, dude. The only way that could happen is if VMware actually like wrote their own, mechanisms to manage the registry and GPOs and to deploy any Windows, like Win32 apps, not just Windows Store apps. And he's like, yeah, we did that. And I'm like, okay, but like that's really difficult. Like you need to have like for your packages, like where's your package and your prerequisites and like the install script and uninstall script and exit codes and drive space checking and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, dude, we do all that. I'm like, oh, all right then.
Like I said, it's impressive, and it's it reminds me, and I don't want to I wear two hats. I have Doug, DABCC Doug, and IGEL Doug, and I always feel bad if I blend the two together, but I will. It's like IGEL. When I joined IGEL, I looked at the UMS, and I was like, I thought I know what it did, and then you just keep peeling the layers off the onion, and you're like, oh my God, it can do this. And same with Workspace ONE. It's amazing. They're mature products. That's why, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a mature product. Hey, let's keep moving. I don't know how much time you guys have, but I want to keep talking if you don't mind. So DaaS, that's coming. What do you guys think? Let's start with Jeff. Jeff, what do you think of DaaS?
Well, what do I think of DaaS?
You like that? Just throw it out there. DaaS. I mean, you can go anywhere with it, right?
It's one of these things that we've been beating on it for years and years and years. We're going to have this. This is the year of VDI. We've been saying that for 20 years, I think.
Brian started that.
I've never said that. Not once have I ever said that.
You never said that?
Absolutely never said. I wrote the VDI delusion.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
go back.
Say any year is a year of VDI.
No, it was Gunnar. Gunnar did that, didn't he?
Yeah, somebody did it in 99.
I think it was
No, 90. It didn't exist in 99.
No.
Yeah,
I think it was Gunnar. Gunnar, when he was at Gartner, was the one that was preaching the year of VDI.
Everyone always says this is. Everyone always attributes that quote to me, and I'm like, I have never said that.
No, I won't attribute it to you because I remember it being around there 96, 99, and you were 96, 97. I think you were still.
But we weren't doing DaaS.
VDI didn't even exist as a term until like 2005, so it'd be way after that.
Right, and of course that says it was the desktop. But this whole idea, the year of the thin client, it goes way back. But so we have desktop as a service as a concept is we've been talking about that for a good 10 years.
Oh yeah. You're talking about ASP, Jeff. You're talking about ASP markets back in the days when we called it ASPs.
Yeah, I remember FutureLink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember it well. I threw a bunch of stock out in the trash can, but conceptually, I always bought into it. I thought we would get there one day. And it seems like we're getting close. It's coming and it's differently, but we look at Amazon Workspaces, we look at the Citrix and Microsoft and Azure stuff, we look at what VMware's doing, and when they bought Desktone and the whole idea around, desktop as a service and everything behind that. And plus, I mean, the various barriers along the way. There was the cost barrier. You talked about that. I mean, that's getting less and less and less. So that's really not an issue anymore. We could then talk about network bandwidth. Well, good heavens, that barrier is going to get knocked down here with 5G LTE. And that's going to change, I think, a lot for a lot of people.
But look at what's happening. Like what you're describing right now is the market changing and how it will affect the dynamics of VDI. And I think that's critical because the question was about DaaS. And from a technology standpoint, there's not like DaaS is not a thing. Yeah. DaaS is just a purchasing model.
Yeah.
That's like leasing versus buying. Like how is leasing versus buying going to change cars? Like it's kind of like that. Like maybe it'll like the actual core technology. Like that's I think what people don't really understand about DaaS is that you first have to decide: do you have a use case where remoted Windows desktops make sense for you? And then if so, do you have a use case where it makes sense to pay for it by the month instead of the initial CapEx to build out a bunch of VDI like on-prem? So the whole thing about DaaS, like people don't understand, like DaaS is not a managed desktop. And if you do want a managed desktop, yes, you can pay a DaaS provider more money to manage your desktop, but you can also pay an MSP more money to manage your physical desktops. That was that's always been a thing over all the years. So,
and of course, the concept of DaaS is mandates that perhaps everybody uses all the same applications.
Well, now and now you're just getting back to depending on what your provider is and what technology they're using and how your contract works and all that kind of thing. So
no, please go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, to me, DaaS is not a thing. It's just a different way of purchasing all these technologies we're talking about, which is certainly valid, but it's a very different conversation from, like, it's not an architecture level conversation. It's once you decide what technology makes sense for you, now it's a purchasing conversation.
I think it's a location conversation. So I have a question to ask you guys. Why did we deploy Citrix in the 90s? Why?
Maps. Remember? management, access, performance, security. When Citrix had the flying angled briefcase man in their like 1990s sales literature,
Sure.
And in the WinFrame and MetaFrame 1.0 days, they talked about the 4 benefits of server-based computing: maps, management, access, performance, security. Centralized management, access from any device, anywhere, performance of local LAN speeds for client-server apps, and the security of no data on the endpoint. And those 4 reasons that they were talking about server-based computing 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago, are equally as applicable today.
Yeah. I think of it. I totally agree with you, but I see it as something even simpler. Is we put the application where the data was, and by doing that, I could, I remember at Citrix trying to open up, some of the the CRM application, and it would take forever over. Well, for one, I couldn't even load it on my local machine. 2, if I wanted to get an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint and tried to load that locally, it would take forever. I'd go download the thing, on my modem, whatever, right? And then so it made things instantaneous because we put the app where the data was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is, so back to DaaS, it's, we do have, our bandwidth is a lot different than it was in those days, right? But it's still about, okay, to me, DaaS makes sense when we can put our data in the cloud, then we can put our app in the cloud, right? And now you could classify DaaS as and to me, DaaS is a cloud delivered desktop, right? Because you could also make the argument that, well, we do DaaS, right? It's desktop as a service and it's provided as a service out to our users. To me, that's just VDI, right? So to clarify, to me, DaaS is a cloud delivered desktop, from like Amazon or Microsoft.
I like that, except... Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, I'm going to side with Brian on this a little bit because the whole concept of desktop as a service is the concept of paying somebody else to provide that service.
Yeah, of course.
But now on the technology side of things, we're going to we got a little massage chain going here because I'm going to side with Doug. Where
I agreed with him. I agreed with both of you guys. So.
But let me tell you this. Do you know? So VMware Horizon are compete against NetApp and desktop. You can use that on Azure. People talk about it, which is a version of Hyper-V essentially in their hypervisor. People talk about, VMware makes you lock in. And let's just say at Synergy, they lock you in, we run on Azure.
Yeah.
You can, we don't care. But the EUC of VMware is separate from the hypervisor departments. And the reason I say that is you can go to Azure right now, and there's Horizon for Azure, and you can click, spin up the VMs, and you're running RDSH and VDI and all that kind of stuff on Horizon out of Azure.
And to me, that's DaaS.
We also have this, right? And see, this is why I say we can't exactly define it. So if all of your data is in applications are in Azure, then by all means, you should deliver your desktops out of Azure, and you can actually run all the VMs yourself and run infrastructure. The infrastructure stack is fairly straightforward, and you're running it, and you're running your full VDI or RDSH, published apps, whatever, using Horizon 7 right out of Azure. We can do the same thing on AWS. So it's called VM Cloud, I think, where you can actually run vSphere on AWS. And then that's a regular vSphere you'd run anywhere, and you can run Horizon on that. You can even extend your architecture between on-prem and cloud, live migrate between your on-prem and your cloud and that kind of stuff. That way you have a little bit more features to do because it's actual vSphere as a platform versus on Azure it's on Hyper-V. It's on Azure, hypervisor. But my point is, if your data is in, if all your data is in AWS. You can pay for a desktop from Amazon Workspaces in AWS, or if you want to have real Horizon, then you can run Horizon in AWS. If you're on Azure, run on Azure. If you're on IBM Cloud, run on IBM Cloud. And if you're on-prem, do it on-prem. So I agree 100% with Doug, but you could still use real Horizon to run all your own stuff.
So we're going to say, okay, so the IT department of a privately held company or of a company, they're just going to say, hey, we're going to shut our data center. We're not going to let anybody go. We're going to shut the data center, and you're going to move the entire data center to the cloud. And we'll keep all the same people. We'll all manage it right out there, and we'll run in the multiple data centers. And that will be then desktop as a service.
Correct. In my opinion. Correct.
I like that.
And that's why I say and see that's the beauty of it. And it doesn't matter. And that's why I like and maybe this might you can say I'm biased because I'm telling you things that I like about VMware and I work there. But remember, I've only been there 2 months. I'm not telling you the brainwashed stuff that they told me to say. I'm telling you the things that are awesome and why I work there.
Yeah.
Like I went there because of this, not I'm telling you this because I work there.
But Brian, this is back to the original question. This is the difference because I have the same problem with IGEL, is that I tell people this and then I feel like I'm saying it because I work there, but I'm not. I'm saying it
Right.
because I love it, because I believe it. I have not changed. I'm the same guy I was a year and a half ago, and you're the same guy you were 3 months ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Right? It just, we're now exposed to something we get to preach a little bit more focused. Although we still digress.
Yeah, we know the details
right?
more, right? Yeah,
you know. But and then you go off on the stuff that you're introduced to that you just say, "Oh my God, this is so amazing," and I want to tell you about it, right? But then you sort of feel bad, like you're preaching brainwashed stuff, but you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as long as you got the data to back up, like as long as you can say why you like something, and I'll say that what I was going to say. So the reason. To me, I'm looking at Horizon on Azure or Horizon on AWS is because it's the same Horizon, like it's the same blast protocol, it's the same clients, it's the same everything across the board, whether it's on-prem or any one of these clouds. And so I like that because let's say you have some stuff in AWS and you want to use AWS workspaces for like your quote-unquote DaaS desktops, but then you also have Horizon on-prem, and then it's like different clients and different protocols, and you could just use Horizon for everything. It's like same license, same clients, same protocols, same connection brokering, all that kind of stuff. And so I like the fact that you can have sort of like the real, like desktop remoting from any cloud. It's not like you have to use like the generic DaaS provider, whatever they happen to be using, because that's what cloud you chose. Yeah. So you can sort of separate your desktop delivery infrastructure from your cloud infrastructure. And Citrix is doing the same thing, by the way. This is not a VMware only thing, but this is the point, is that like this is why I like to think about DaaS like that, as opposed to thinking of DaaS like, oh, there's workspaces versus frame, versus I don't know, whatever else.
Sure. I think at some point we will get to a very commoditized delivery system, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Probably not in my business life.
Well, it's almost. I mean, it kind of is in some ways. Like I wrote this article a long time ago saying that one of the advantages that VMware had over Citrix in the sort of Zen desktop space is Citrix XenApp, came from the physical world. So there's a lot of infrastructure, like services that XenApp itself had to provide, like in terms of server management and like the load balancing and brokering connections and all that sort of thing. In the virtual world, a lot of that stuff is managed at like the hypervisor and like the hypervisor sort of management level. So if you're building on top of, and now that goes one step further, even like into the cloud services, like AWS Workspaces probably has fewer lines of code written than anything else out there from Citrix or VMware, because they're leveraging, all the Amazon Workspaces services, EC2 and EBS and S3 and Route 53 and the Elastic load balancing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and so it's the same kind of thing. So I think the commodity, to your point, in some ways these things are becoming more commoditized because, like, when Horizon made like the old version of Horizon had to do like linked clones, which were like a nightmare, and basically like the desktop group at VMware had to write that. The modern stuff, they use this thing called instant clones, and that's based on a VM fork technology that's built into vSphere. And so it's like that kind of thing, like that VM fork technology built into vSphere is available to everyone on vSphere, even if you're running like Citrix or Microsoft on top of it as well. So it's one of those things where, as more of this sort of advanced technology gets built into the platform layers, then the actual delivery layer on top of that isn't as much. It becomes really just like your protocol.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
I agree 100%. Again, just my head swimming with these concepts and these ideas, how everything, all the advances in all the different areas are coming along. I mean, the instant cloning that you're describing there, Brian, it just makes more sense. So as I add a user, as someone connects, everything's just there for them, and we're having improvements on all fronts and the way we work and the technologies behind the scenes. And I'm just going to turn on one day and just whatever I need, it'll just be there.
Well, that's the question. Is Citrix talked about what there's the book that talked about or what did Citrix say? It'd be like a television set. Well, that was the 2010 thing, wasn't it? Or 2004, 2001. It's like a television set. But this is what I'm saying is that, we'll get there, but will it be, will it be within our careers to where it's just turned into a commodity like a cable vision? You know what I mean? Or will IT continue to manage it? And I had a discussion with a friend of mine just a few days ago, and I was like, I just don't think it'll get there anytime soon. There's too many businesses. So, for example, he said, this whole idea of remoting is stupid, and all that'll go away. He's very anti-remoting, interesting guy. But and I said, no, I think it's a bridge. I think that Citrix, VMware, Microsoft is a bridge from legacy to the future. We're not going to get rid of Windows apps anytime soon, right?
And that's the thing is like the remoting is only one leg of like this overall stool, which is nice, because MetaFrame in 1998 was only about remoting Windows apps. That's all Citrix did. And now, now the platform is remoting Windows apps and local Windows apps management and local Mac management and local iOS and Android management and Chrome OS management and cloud-based web SaaS app management. And so that I agree with that. Like the remoting, like no one is hinging their business on the future of remoting Windows.
No, we can't. But I think you can't tell. I don't think it could happen in 10 years. It may not happen exactly.
It doesn't matter though. Like it's like
it
doesn't matter if it does.
I mean, we were talking about was just a year ago, right? Not even a year ago. We had the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. I mean, look how the world has changed in 10 years.
You know what I think though.
About 10 years, we're trying to picture this. You can't.
Yeah,
you will see. I think you will see a lot of this in your lifetime. But the thousands of apps
the bar is always going to be raised. Like all of this workspace stuff, and again, I'm not talking. I mean, what Citrix is talking about, what VMware is talking about, kind of like the universal platform across all devices and user identity and apps and everything. Like that's all technology is real today. Like all that stuff, like VMware shipping this, you can buy that today. Like that's all real. You want to start talking about the future. Now you get into like intelligence and like AI, not just for like looking for security and analytics and that kind of stuff, but into like being smarter with like workflows and like micro apps and administrative automations and all this kind of stuff. So like all that layer is going to be like the next kind of 5 years of what we're working on. So even if the sort of infrastructure and device app content management layers become a commodity, that's just because we've moved on, and like the high value layer is now like above that. And then of course AI will be commoditized in 5 years, and it'll be like, do we want Amazon's AI or Microsoft's AI or whatever? Yeah. And then at that time it's going to be the next thing that we're working on. Yeah. So I think everything like gets pushed down towards commodity, but it doesn't mean that anyone like throws in the towel. It just means we're working on more interesting things.
So that's a whole different. Someday we got to have a podcast, Brian, just talking about AI and IoT from because that's a whole. I dove both. I've read a handful of books on these subjects. It's such in their industries. They're not. You know what I mean? It's like, so you throw out AI and they're like, well, okay, well, what do you mean? Because there's a billion things. It's like IoT, man. It's like you got your toys all the way to your Legos to your, business intelligence, right? So,
but but it goes to everything. If you narrow it down, like. There's AI in terms of a computer like singularity that's smarter than the human species, but that's such a different thing than like, hey, you can actually use AI today to scan through like terabytes of logs and find security anomalies, and which like that's a real thing you can actually have today.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It's such a different. I don't want to go down that pipe right now because
we'll do a different podcast with that. But
we'll never get there. But it's such a great. The singularity is what interests me. I mean, from the nerd side of me, it's like, oh boy, that's. I don't know if I want to live through that.
No, I want to be dead.
I do want to be dead.
I want to be dead by then.
But it's definitely an interesting thing to talk about. So, okay, I want to throw something at you, Brian. Take off the VMware hat, or you can keep it on, but put back on the BrianMadden.com hat, okay? In the Citrix Ready, Workspace Hub, Raspberry Pi thing. Does it make sense? If so, where?
Party trick.
Or is it just sort of a field of dreams type of thing?
It's a party trick. I mean, every demo I've seen with this thing, it's always like it has to be explained away. Like, oh, like wait, hang on, I gotta read off. Hang on a second. Okay, let's try again. Like it's just, it's a party trick. And we like party tricks. I mean, telling Alexa to turn your lights off is a party trick. But the Raspberry Pi. So first of all, the Raspberry Pi is so cheap, and like the GPU on it, even on Pi 3, is the same GPU that like the first one had. That's like the size of like a grain of dust. And it does, like, people focus on this thing being so cheap, but it can only accept like certain protocols, and it actually requires more encoding on the server side to prepare your stream to do like H.264 encoding. So this little cheap thing can decode it. You actually lose capacity on your servers because your servers are working harder to be able to work with a client that's so dumb. So it's like, if you spent $100 on a thin client instead of $60, maybe you can actually fit a lot more uses on your box. So I feel like the everything around the Raspberry Pi is a solution looking for a problem. And like the Workspace Hub, I just don't get, like, if you put a real thin client there that had just a little bit more power, like there's nothing really that it does that's like that, like, it's just one of those things like we have this at VMware. Like the conference room system is integrated with our like Outlook calendars, and it has like there's little like screens on the wall outside every conference room, and it's like green if it's available and red if it's not available, and you're never ever supposed to have any conference room conflict ever. And every time I'm Palo Alto, like the room I booked is busy, even though it's red and has my name on it, or it's green, I walk in and someone else walks in and it doesn't. I just feel like it's sort of needlessly complex for like the logistics of arranging rooms you go to and, all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like, I don't know. And like the whole Citrix casting thing, I mean, really what's wrong with the HDMI connector in the middle of the room, which has like your device, and, you plug right into it. Yeah, I don't like it.
I want to hack Citrix casting.
Yeah, I mean,
it's on the wire, man. Let's take it down.
And I said this about the Workspace Hub thing. Like I was very vocal about my like eye rolling reaction to that. Right from the get go. And like I said, it's a party trick. It's yeah, I get the concept. It's cute, but like, come on.
Yeah,
Jeff, what do you think?
Well, you know where I am on this thing. I go the concept of I'm still trying to understand the workflows. I'm walking in the building, it recognizes me as walking in the building, so it starts to log me into my desktop. Or how do you know I'm going to my office? I mean, I don't want you logging in my desktop. I mean, I like to go in and log in and then walk down the hall and get a cup of coffee. I mean, this is nuts. And so I'm trying to understand. I'm just trying to think, is there any workflows where this concept actually might make sense?
Like no one is asking to solve this problem. And when it's presented on here's how this problem you didn't ask for has been solved, no one sees that and is like, yes, perfect, I want that.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to figure out how to stick up for them, and I mean, I definitely think it's neat. I think that, maybe hospitals or something like that, a doctor walks into a room, but what if the doctor walks by the room and unlocks the machine? Now the patient's in the, like me, I'm in there and I'm like, let me see what I can find, right? Not that I would do
that's
that.
That's not and that's not the use case for this thing, because you already have that. Like you can use, a regular thin client with like Improvata or whatever, and have like proximity-based tap in, tap out.
I'm trying to stick up for it. I'm trying.
Right. No, I mean, I could see in that environment. I guess,
like I can session roam. I mean, you don't need session roaming when you have an HDMI cable plugged into a TV in the conference room. Like that problem has been solved.
Right.
And it works off any device. And then it's like, oh, I want my session. Like, check out my laptop. Like, you're presenting some slides, and someone wants a demo. You pass them the HDMI tail, and now they're plugged in. Versus this thing, it's gonna be like, oh, are you on? Oh, wait, which wireless are on? Oh, you're on the guest. Go to this other one. Okay, wait. Okay, log out. It's not connecting. Try resetting your Wi-Fi. Like, it's just
transferring that desktop to my phone. I mean, I've got 20 applications open on my desktop. The last thing I went to is 20 applications transferring to my phone.
Yeah.
We had this concept with our phones. You could have your desk phone and you could transfer that call to your cell phone. Now that one actually made sense, but I don't know hardly anybody that actually ever did that.
No, because it's just like too much. The stars have to align so perfectly for that to hand off properly. You're just like, hey, let me call back in 2 minutes. Because really, when you're getting up from your desk, you're going to stop and pee anyway and refill your coffee and then call them back. So it's just like all this stuff. Again, like these are solving problems that no one asked to be solved.
I think they could do it, so they did it. You know, you have guys within Citrix that are looking for things that they can do. They bought OctaBlue, which was an interesting company, to say the least. Very neat technology, and they, you know, have all these guys running around playing with pies, and they said, okay, we can do this. You know, let's do it. Now, here's a question. If they threw that on x86, you know, let's say they threw that on an IGEL, okay? And so it was a good piece of hardware, a great operating system, a great management tool. Now, would that change it?
Well, I would still go back to asking like what the use case was that it was solving.
Right.
So, because the whole thing about, you know, sort of like detecting who's in the room and all that, like I just don't buy that. You know, if you just want something where you can sort of like interact with the display that's in a conference room, then yeah, like you put an IGEL on there and someone can log in to that if they want to. But again, I just don't, so like the whole idea, like it's like, oh, now you can go to the conference room without your laptop. Like why? I carry my laptop everywhere. It's not like, it's not hard. It weighs 3 pounds. I mean, it's made out of metal. I can drop it. It doesn't like it's not a burden to me to be like, oh, great, I don't have to take my laptop to this conference room. And you never be able to trust the technology is always working anyway, or like this one doesn't have a workspace hub, or this one's broken, or whatever. And it's like, oh, now I have to go back and get my laptop. Guess what? I'm carrying my laptop with me anyway. So, yeah, I guess I can't even say if it's like maybe have an IGEL thin client connected to your display to give some use cases. I guarantee that thing will get dusty from lack of use because, like, what problem is that solving?
I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to, you know, I'm the host. I got to ask these questions.
No, I don't see. I don't. It all goes back to the use case, and I still am struggling with what use case. And Brian's exactly right.
Yeah, it's cool though, right? It's a party trick. It's cool to see. It is cool. You know, I'll give that to him. It's definitely cool. The OctaBlue stuff was mega cool. You know, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, OctaBlue's gone for a reason. And
no, Citrix is not selling $2.7 billion a year software because it's cool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So it can woo the fanboys, but at the end of the day, the customers, you know, they got to justify it. So.
It's a bad term to use in business.
What, fanboy?
Cool. I remember years ago presenting, I forget, this goes back before my IGEL days, but I made the comment cool to a customer, and the customer said there was this dead silence on the phone. And he said to me, you use the word cool. I said, well, it is. And he said, yeah, but when you say the word cool, I see it's not, I just see it costing me money.
That's a very good point.
Are you sure this wasn't in the 1940s before the word cool entered the everyday vernacular? It might be.
You know, being 60 years old or darn near 60 makes a difference.
That's hilarious. When I was at Citrix, they told me I wasn't allowed to use the word sucks. I remember that because I would use to refer to like Tarantella, right? Which was clearly sucked, right? Oh, that sucks. They're like, yeah, don't use the word sucks. I was like, but what else do I use? They're like, call it really bad. I don't think they said that part, but they definitely told me not to use the word suck. So I'll add to it cool. You shouldn't use the word cool. My last slide was always, whenever I did sessions, was I'm cool, you're cool, let's be cool together. So that was my community slide.
And make money for everybody along the way. So.
That's exactly right. Let's have a lot of fun and solve problems. Or let's have fun solving problems. Okay, guys, I've taken up a lot of your time, and the listeners hopefully they're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So, but I have one more question, and let's play this one out if you don't mind. Then maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime if you guys are so willing. So what's next? So we talked about this a bit, and you know, what do you think's coming? What are the next battles to be faced? You know, we're at an interesting time. AI, IoT, you know, DaaS, blah, 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 cloud, Moore's Law. Moore's Law, they say, is coming to an end, right? So, or at least slowing down a bit. But then I read things to say that's not the case.
I mean, they've said that forever.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the whole point, you know?
I love that you brought up Moore's Law too, Brian, because you can go back through my podcast shows, and I say it almost all the time. Yeah. Moore's Law is the one thing that, you know, and it's sort of, it's not a thing really, right? It's just sort of the idea that, you know, things get faster.
But a lot of things, yeah, and Moore's Law, like there's you know, when you're sort of building products, like there's a certain set of problems that are solved by Moore's law. It's like, really, you know what? Rather than us spending resources on this, in 2 years, it's not going to be an issue because everything's going to be twice as fast. So, and half as expensive. Right. So like, back burner that.
So I have a law. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but I think I told Jeff, I told you my law. So Andy giveth and Bill taketh away. Did you get that one, Brian?
Is that Andy Jassy or Andy Grove? Andy
Grove.
Andy Jassy is the CEO of AWS.
Oh yeah.
Well, so that's Andy giveth and Andy taketh away.
Yeah,
it was that old concept. It goes back to the whole 640K ought to be enough memory for anybody. I mean, we build better, faster, more capable machines, and as a result, we consume them on the other side. And Microsoft has consumed everything we've ever put out there. It's been consumed.
Yeah, look at the chart. Someone just tweeted these charts that showed like every build of Windows 10 and how much like CPU it uses, disk space, memory, and like IOPS. And every release gets higher and higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
So even though it's all Windows 10. It's like creeping up. It's just getting like more and more just like garbage and services and stuff built into it.
Yeah. Well, Andy giveth and Bill taketh away. At all times, it's relative. Was your 286 any faster than your machine today?
Right,
or
was
it any slower? No, it was all relative. Right?
I could open up ProWrite just as fast as I can open Word today.
Yeah.
And a machine with 4.77 megahertz.
Yeah, that's exciting.
8 bits, 1 core.
I think that's a solid law. Of course, we have to change the name since they're both now retired, right?
Right.
But otherwise, but you get the gist. Although I don't think the millennials know Andy Grove.
Or Bill. I mean, Bill Gates to them is the guy who's curing polio.
He's not. Exactly. Brian, I think polio has been cured.
Or eradicating purely in the wild. I should say eradicating from the world, in the wild. Yeah.
Malaria, AIDS, things like that.
Cincinnati doctor, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Jonas Salt was from
Ohio? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are both from Ohio. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're all from the Midwest.
Yeah, but that makes us rivals because I'm a Hawkeye, so we have an old saying in Iowa: "Oh, how I hate Ohio State."
Oh yeah, everyone in Iowa is so smug because our cheer is like OH, and then someone else yells like IO, and then like the Hawkeyes like WA.
Oh yeah. It took me a second to get that.
Oh, you beat us last year, man.
Iowa, yeah,
we did.
Beat us last year. You messed up our season.
Yeah, too bad for you.
So but it's like siblings. So the Big Ten, your rivalries when you live in the Midwest. But now, Doug, that you and I live outside the Midwest, if you see another Big Ten, like you have like that camaraderie.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like someone else, like it's like someone else beating up on your brother. Like no, like I can call these people names, but like I mean that's Michigan.
It's like Minnesota. So Iowans like to make fun of Minnesota, and they're just one step away from Canada. So it's Minnesota. And
because they're all Swedes anyway.
And they like to say, you know what Iowa stands for, don't you? And I was like, idiots on wheels ahead, or idiots out wandering around. So anyway, so what's next, guys? What's coming down the pike? Can you give us a prediction or something?
Well, no, that's nothing. No prediction that will be around to say. It's just going to happen to us. I had this vision of the guy sitting there that we see on CSI or whatever, and they're looking at the desk and they take something and they wave at it and it shows up on the wall and everybody looks at it and everything. And I say, gee, we're going to have a world. It may not be like that, but I'm going to sit down in my car one day. Well, heck, you can almost do it now. You plug in your phone and you get all your apps showing up on the dashboard, whether it's an Android or an Apple phone. But we're gonna sit here one day, and those emails are gonna pop in, and if I'm watching a football game, they're gonna pop up on the screen, and I can respond to them there. It won't be just a caller ID popping up because nobody has home phones anymore, but except maybe people who are 60. But yeah, I mean, this is a world that we're gonna encounter where whatever I want to do is just gonna be there, and I mean, that's what's going to be next.
Jeff? As an older guy, do you find that scary, or at least like it was better? Like it was better when I was a kid.
What scares me, this gets philosophical, is the amount of stimulation and things vying for your attention. In some ways, I fear that it's made us dumber. We're smarter. We can look stuff up and we can learn so much so quickly. But the attention span is 18 seconds? Yeah. We were talking about that, I think, Doug. Yeah. But how long you have to get a message delivered that quickly because people's minds will move on to something else.
Well, and this is what I was going to say when I think Brian said something about the iPhone being 10 years old, and I'd like to. I wonder if Steve was around. Would he honestly like it, or would he, or would? Let me explain. I guess is I look at the iPhone as I can't walk. You walk down to New York, San Francisco. Everyone's sitting there staring at their phones. Go out for dinner. Everyone's staring at the phones. Put down your phone. Getting off a jet. Walking up the jetway off a plane. And this girl in front of me staring at her phone, clogging the entire thing. So I finally said to her, "Hey, God's not coming out of your phone. Get the hell out of my way." She looked at me and she snipped at me, and I snipped back at her. It's like, put your phone in your pocket and pay attention. There's a beautiful world around you. And then off I went to my airplane. I'm old. I'm grumpy.
Agreed. I agree, dude. I told you I went to a flip phone for a while, like for my year off, and it took a few weeks to get out of the habit. Like you order a latte in line, and then you reach your phone, and then in my case, there's like nothing on it, and I'm like, oh right, put it back in my pocket. Then you're like looking around at like the cups and the ceiling tiles, and like the stirring sticks and all that. But you don't realize that like you can't wait 30 seconds. And it's not even a millennial. Again, like I'm old too, and it's like I can't wait. Like I have the elevator. Like you can't be on the elevator without looking at the phone. I live on the 19th floor of this building, and like it's every time I'm down and up, like phone. So yeah, it's a hard habit to break. But what's nice about this, though, and I will say to Jeff's prediction, I don't think it's here yet, but we have the potential to have like a universal off button also, which is kind of nice because like like there's a do not disturb on your like iOS has do not disturb, and I like the concept of you click that once and it also suppresses the notifications that are coming on your TV and your phone and your laptop and your tablet and all that kind of stuff. So the one sort of advantage of everything kind of being funneled together is you can have a universal off button.
That's interesting. My girlfriend and I get in arguments about it because I tell her, put your phone down. And she says back to me, but Doug, you look at your phone more than I do. And you're a hypocrite. And I was like, yes, I'm a hypocrite. Call me what you want, but put your phone down. So it's a vicious thing. It really drives me nuts because I'm as guilty as anybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got an iPhone now. I'm still pulling it out of Starbucks, like I have it, and it's back out. I'm on the elevator too with my iPhone today, to be very clear. Yeah, I can tell you exactly what floor the Wi-Fi disappears and what floor it starts up again.
Yeah. Well, what do you have, Brian? Did you get an 8 or an X?
Yeah, iPhone 10.
iPhone 10. Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. The face thing, I got it frankly because I wanted the OLED screen because I like the oversaturation that Samsung devices have, and I also have iMessage, so I didn't want to go to Android.
Sure.
Now the screen is not nearly as vivid as on a Samsung, but the Face ID I thought I would hate, but actually I like it a lot. It's annoying sometimes, like when the phone's on the table and you actually have to like hover over it to make it turn on. But the Face ID stuff is pretty great. I like this waterproof now. That I've dropped it twice into water and it's fine.
Nice. I left my I have an 8 because I was upset with Apple for creating buggy products, so I wasn't going to buy their 10, or the X or whatever, and so I waited, and then I left my 7 on an airplane, and nobody found it, of course, and so it was a great opportunity for me to buy the X, and so I bought it, and I rather like it. I like the form factor. I bought the 8 Plus because I wanted the camera. And my old eyes are getting bad, and so that was sort of nice. But it's just so big to hold and put in your pocket and everything. In the winter, it's great. You put in your coat. But in the summer, where do you put this thing? And so I really like the X. I like the form factor. I'm not so crazy about the Face ID thing. To me, I probably hit the passcode more than it ever recognizes my face, or it's just easier. But what I find weird is now to go back to my 8 or to my iPad.
Oh yeah. The iPad, right.
Totally messes with your gestures.
Yeah.
Takes
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little
Oh,
bit of a while.
totally. Yeah. So on the so my future prediction is maybe a little more specific to our industry, and it might just be because of my like sitting in the CTO office at VMware. I like see a lot of stuff, but a lot like everything that, and this is all stuff that we're talking about publicly. I talked about like Workspace ONE as like the universal platform for all the devices, and again, that like everyone's doing this kind of stuff today, not just VMware. But then there's the Workspace ONE intelligence component that sits on top of that. And so everything, like all the devices, the data from the devices and applications and application performance and what you're running and who's logged in, and all hooking into the cloud, the identity management platforms. So hooking into what cloud apps you're using and where you are in the world, and just like all that data being dumped up in that sort of data lake in real time. And then the ability to do, I'll say cool things, the ability to do cool things with that. So, whether it's like looking like security analytics or, like behavior analytics or malware detection or, like improving workflows because we know what device you're on, where the user is, what apps they're doing, and, you can make connection into like, all this kind of stuff. Like, so I've started paying attention since I have a real job again. I've started paying attention to the things that are like actually annoying in my job that AI could solve. Like, for example, expense reports where you need it's Concur for the expense report. You got the hotel receipt in a PDF, so you got two windows right there. But the hotel rate like changes every day, so you can't actually use the thing where it multiplies it and itemizes it across days. So you have to like enter each day manually. But there's more taxes for the hotel than there's like tax fields in Concur. So you also need calculator open to like just add up some taxes to like get the fields to fill in. So it's just a very like manual, mechanical process that makes expensing each hotel night take like 5 minutes instead of 10 seconds. So I feel like that's the kind of thing that like a business AI would be able to solve, that sort of looking at like all the different applications and actually being able to be smarter about what we're actually trying to do and then doing it for us. And I got a million examples like that. Like the time zones is another thing. Like I'm traveling all over the world now, and like I book a trip in Concur, which is the VMware official application. It hooks into TripIt, which sends invites to my calendar. Like Outlook knows, and actually even Outlook now on the Mac, the latest version of Outlook 365 will automatically add like flights and hotel nights into your calendar.
Yeah,
right. Yet it doesn't update your time zone. And Outlook only has one time zone at a time. Like, yes, you can view two time zones side by side, but like, I'm here today, I'm in Palo Alto, next week then I'm back here, then I'm in Denmark, and then I'm in the UK. And so like, but I'm getting schedule requests because my free busy time is only like 8 to 5 on like the local time zone of whatever I'm in. So like, man, Outlook, that I'm in Palo Alto on Thursday. Like, why? What? Like, you should shift. It should shift every single day, like the time zone of every single day based on where I am, and then update my free busy so my coworkers don't send me schedule requests for 2 o'clock in the morning because they think I'm home, but I'm actually on the other side of the world. So I think we're actually a lot closer to solving that than like that's not sci-fi to like solve those kinds of things,
That's just basic
like
AI, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is not, and it requires a platform like Workspace ONE who can actually hook into, like, it's got the agents running with inside Windows and on your phone, and it hooks in the applications on the back end and the email and your identity, and knowing like there's a lot of moving pieces you need to make that all like come together. But I think that you take something like Workspace ONE, and then it's got the all the data that gathers from the intelligence platform. Like everything you need is in that data lake, and so now it's just someone like using the APIs to build like an AI-based workflow assistant or something like that. Where I feel like those problems are solvable. Like this isn't like this is not us trying to make like I said before, the technical singularity that's taken over the world. This is like more simple stuff that I feel like can be solved in the next few years. And that I'm really, really looking forward to. Yeah,
me too, because I'm in the same boat you are, and you get these things. Just the calendar thing is, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, but it's a bigger picture as you're alluding to. I love it. Guys, I've had so much fun. We've talked for an hour and 45 minutes, and I could chat with you guys for a long time. So I've really, really enjoyed this, and what do I say? But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and with chat together. I mean, this is fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it too.
Well, thank you. It was I did enjoy it. So I look forward to doing it again.
We got maybe something after VMworld, Brian. We can, or maybe we do something just a one-off where we talk about AI. No EUC, just AI. Well, we can relate it to EUC because that's the world we live in. But AI and IoT, and I mean, hey, have you ever read the book, Brian? This is a good one for you. It's called Enchanted Objects by David Rose. Have you come across that list?
No, but I've been reading a lot of books. Actually, on paper now too.
Oh, really?
So let me add it to my list. I got a library card and everything.
Really? I buy my books, believe it or not. Although I stopped doing it because I've traveled. I have the 2 homes now, so I got 6,000 books. I got to figure out how to get to Germany, and that's going to cost me a lot of money. You know what I mean? Those things aren't lightweight. So almost like buying them over again. But I have all these old books. You know, I have all these Citrix Metaframe XP Advanced Technical Design Guide.
Wow,
which I noticed didn't make the cut on your bookshelf.
No, it's on my
Twitter
bookshelf right now. I'm touching it. Next to it is Terminal Services for Windows 2003 Advanced Technical Design Guide. The next to that is the VDI Delusion. The next to that is Metaframe Access Suite, the official guide by Kaplan.
That's Kaplan's book. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, that's
so, dude, your Twitter. So, people listening, go to your Twitter account homepage is Douglas A. Brown. You get the picture of your bookshelf as your like wallpaper on there.
Yeah, and, a few of them. One shelf of one of. I have 7 bookcases.
There's a lot of books on there I want to read. Like, I feel like some of them I know, and the ones I don't know, I'm sure are awesome. So
you notice the WinView? The WinView manual's in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to use the I'm going to use this in my reading list.
But check out Enchanted Objects. It's really cool. It's basically it's about the toy side of AI or of IoT, right? But it's like taking everyday objects and not just connecting them to the internet. Whoopee! It's about making them do something better, right? So the one example that I'll give you is the umbrella, right? In today's world, in fact, I just ordered a Nest for my home so I can control my temperature of my AC here when I'm, in Europe, right? And I can, on my Nest, I can get the weather. On my scale, I can get the weather. On my phone, I can get the weather. TV, I can get weather, and about 80,000 other places. But that's not the right place at the right time in a way I can understand it, right? So it's all about making devices that does those 3 things. So, for example, the umbrella. I'm running out the door. I took my quick shower. I woke up late. I'm showered. I'm dressed. I'm putting on my coat as I'm running out the door, and I see my umbrella sitting there flashing red. Okay.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it connects to the internet via a small little chip. Board. That's like Whisper Sync, right? In 1 pixel, it tells me what I need to know, when I need to know it, in a way I can understand it. Boom, I'm out. I grab the thing without even slowing down my umbrella. I'm out the door, and it's raining. You know what I mean?
Now I want the $2 version of that on a bungee cord I can strap to my current umbrella handle, and not have to buy a new smart device every time my umbrella flips inside out.
This is definitely the case, but you see the point, and that's what the book is about.
No, that's good.
That is an enchanted object, right? It's something better because it's connected, right?
Speaking of enchanted objects, and speaking of reading books on paper, I'm currently reading the Harry Potter series, which I have not seen in the movies, and I've never read the books. So I'm like about halfway through. I'm in like book 4 right now, and a lot of stuff in the books is like that. I mean, that's something like they would have in Harry Potter, where it would, like the objects are enchanted around you and they like remind you of things. So I never really put that together about thinking about how that a lot of stuff could actually become real. But yeah, obviously it's very much good.
You'll love the book. You'll love it. I listen to it because when I'm, I travel a lot, and in Berlin I walk everywhere, right? And so I'd listen to it. And as I was going through it, and after, and still to this day, I'll see something, I'll think to myself, how can I make that enchanted? How can I, not just connect it, but what can you do with it? So you start doing this interesting thing in your mind with trying to make everything, not just smart, but useful smart. Right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So maybe we'll like
a pie, right?
We'll all read that book before the next time we get together, and we can have a book discussion.
Ooh, we can do book club.
Exactly.
I listen. I do as many as I can, man. I wish I had more time.
We'll read it. We'll get up to speed on it. Okay, Doug, and then we'll have a discussion about what were the most enchanting items in there, and would any of them actually ever come true? Do they make sense?
Do they make sense? Guys, I could keep going, but we got to quit. We're at an hour and 50 minutes. I'm going to add a 10-minute intro, so this is going to be a 2-hour podcast. So, but I think people will enjoy it. So I definitely did. I had so much fun. So, Brian, it was a joy, true joy. We've never done this together. So I don't
that's
think we've
crazy.
ever
Done it, yeah.
I mean, we have known you forever. So here's my last story I'll tell. Brian, do you remember meeting me?
It must have been at iForm, like the Dolphin and Swan.
I remember meeting you, and we went to. I met you, and I don't actually remember the first. And then I met you. We went to at the House of Blues, and you were sitting. You were at HP at the time.
Yeah,
and you were sitting with I think your boss or a coworker or something, and I sat down and we chatted then. And that was probably 2002, maybe 2003.
It was 2003. I had moved on to do my own thing, so it would have been 2002.
Yeah, so it would have been back then. It would have been October 2002 because iForm was in October back then.
Yeah. Yep.
So and in all that time, we've never done something like this. So what a shame on us. So
yeah, I should see my camera. I must have just gotten a digital camera because my photo archive goes back to that iForm. You scroll like the very, very beginning in my photos archive, and it's that iForm from 2002. So I need to scan those photos and see if like you're in the background of any of them or something.
Yeah, Skinny Doug. That was Skinny Doug.
Oh, that was like little kid Brian. I was like 23.
Yeah, I was 30. Well, I was 30. What 30
or 25?
31
25.
years old. Yeah, I was 31 years old. So, to be young again. You know?
Oh, wow.
There's a podcast. Oh, to be young again. Okay. Well, guys, for the 5th time, let's go ahead and call this an episode. So thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks for the invite.
Guys, it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I say? That was fun. I've known Brian for a long time. I met him when he was, before he was Brian Madden, when he was at the HP, at HP. And so I've known the kid a long time. I shouldn't call him. He's younger than me. I can call him a kid. So, and I really, really enjoyed it. And Jeff is just... Jeff is an amazing guy too. I got to spend a week with him not long ago on a road show and talking about smart. So what fun that was. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope it opened your mind a little bit. Hope you check out what VMware is doing. Definitely check out what IGEL is doing. Disruptive is right. And thanks, Jed, for taking both Brian and I, putting us back to work, I guess, right? Good job, Jed. So, as Jed says, he's getting sick of winning, and but get used to it, man. I don't think you know how to lose. So, what else do I say? But thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sort of left speechless, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it that much. So, thanks again to Brian and Jeff for making that happen. So much fun, and we will do this again. We'll do something after VMworld and talk about what happened at VMworld, and I'm going to get Brian to come on and do one on AI and IoT, because those are two subjects I know Brian likes and I very much interested in, and have my views, and whether or not I'm right or wrong is a different question. But hey, as Brian said, it's opinions. I'm never wrong, right? So although I'm wrong, I ask my girl and she'll tell you he's wrong all the time. I guess we can all relate to that in one way, be it your girl or your guy, depending on and leave it at that. So thanks you so much. Like I said, check out VMware.com, check out IGEL.com, and most importantly, or not most importantly, but also check out DABCC.com for the latest and greatest of everything IT. And on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And what else do I say in my speechless, rambling voice here? But what else do I say? But thank you very much for listening to DABCC.
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.